Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Video Games Are for Losers, and this is going to be a special one. I'm Rusty,
And this is Cliffgoat.
and
And Barry.
uh, and it's nice to have you here with us today, Barry. For those of you for those of you who don't know, Barry Evans is known as Sonic underscore 1992, and what's special about Barry is his love for Sonic. And me personally, Sonic is my first Sega game on the Sega Master System, and so I have a special love for Sonic too. Maybe not as eccentric of a love as Barry has, but I appreciate his love for it anyway. So we'll go ahead and let you get started with the first question there for him, Cliff.
Alrighty. Well, again, Barry, thanks for joining the podcast today. It is an
You bet.
honor to talk to you today and talk about your love for video games and you're a megapolis of a collection there that you have behind you. But I'm gonna start. I'm gonna throw you for a slight curveball here. A couple
Okay.
of questions to kind of keep you off kilter, but questions that you need to have an answer to. One, this is an easy one. How's the weather out there in Dayton and Southeast Texas at this time of year?
It's
In
very
terms
hot.
of, yeah, the humidity especially is what I'm getting to, of course, because here's the thing: do you have a good AC man, like an air conditioner man? Like, do you have a reliable man or woman that you
We
can?
just we recently just found one because right now the air conditioner for the house and the game room are struggling. They're aging, so they're
Uh,
needing replacing. And we actually found a good company because we've been swindled by air conditioning companies several times in the past.
Okay, I was gonna say because I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I heard about the where your headquarters is stationed out there in Dayton, and this collection that that you've seen, I've seen in a video format for the first time ever, I thought to myself, is the air conditioning game on point? Because my goodness, if the AC goes off and you're out of service for like a week or so, I mean, could you try to paint the picture for us? In how much concern do you have if you were not to have AC or any type of climate control in that room for a substantial period of time, being several days, what level of concern do you have if something like that happens?
100% panic because we do have a whole house standby generator. So if there's a hurricane, within 10 seconds of the power going out, the generator detects the outage, starts a generator, and the transfer switch switches the electricity from the utility to the generator, and we have everything back online. The second thing is if the air conditioner does go out, and it's happened before, we can get a portable unit to bring in here just to keep some kind of cool air going because I keep the room at 75 degrees and a dehumidifier as well at 40, and I keep the room at 40% humidity.
Okay, so
Temperature and humidity control is very important.
yeah, that's what I was thinking is just anything regarding the humidity because I mean, what type of if you can give us like a top 5 list of like material besides like your typical plastic that you have like for like the action figures and stuff, like are there certain pieces of your memorabilia that's made out of like let's say just like basic paper? Of course you got plastic, but do you have like some sort of are some made out of certain metals or maybe some other materials that are more susceptible to the elements than other materials? Like, are there like specific items that you have in the that you have in your room that you that you prioritize? Okay, if the climate does go bad, I need to do something with this item ASAP. Or do you just address the whole room as one in a
Address the
sense?
whole room because it's too much for me to handle. I couldn't just like grab things and take them out and take them into the house. That's where I would, if something happened with the main AC, we would get like a window unit or one of those portable rolling ACs to bring out here just to try and keep. It wouldn't be able to cool the whole room properly, but it would keep it from getting unbearable. But the biggest thing is the paper items like posters.
Right.
That if the AC went off, as long as I kept the dehumidifier running, it would warm up, but the humidity would stay down. It would be okay. It's keeping the dampness out is top priority, um,
Mm-hmm.
because if I tell people all the time that have collections, especially in their homes. See, I have a unique situation here. All mine's in a separate building where I don't have any plumbing out here. I would never have a restroom. Um, so it stays like a clean room. There's no dust or water or dampness generated. But the biggest thing you have to worry about is for your collection that most people don't realize is silverfish. They're little tiny bugs that thrive on dampness and humidity. And a lot of people have that in their house and they don't know it. Those bugs eat up everything that's paper that has a shine on it, which is all action figures, posters, your CD cases, DVD cases. They destroy everything rapidly, and won't know it until it's too late.
And the only reason you said silverfish, is that correct?
Yes.
And the only reason I know what that is because I play Minecraft. And I would have never heard of that had I never played Minecraft. Because remember Silverfish, Rusty? Remember we
Yeah, I
used to
know
play
what
on
you're
the
talking
well.
about. Yeah. The
Those little
silverfish.
silver, they
Yeah,
do a lot of damage, and apparently to the house, that's a big
yeah, they
that's a
do.
big ordeal as well. Another question I want to ask. So, aside from the environment of the, I'm kind of move transition from just the environment of the collection room itself. I want to talk about the world record specifically and the process behind that. So, it looks like you were officially crowned the world record holder for this record earlier this year, just a few months ago. And my question about that is, as a former world record holder myself, I was the first ever world record holder for the longest paper football field goal that I set in 2012. I do not have the record at this point, but I'm trying to get that back. But that's a separate story. But I want to tie this into you.
Sure.
So, is this record something that you created by submitting a proposal to Guinness World Records, or did this record already exist?
Well, they had a category for it, and they had a base set record amount that you had to beat. Um, Now, of course, I'm pretty sure they do that for most things, because if someone said, "Oh, I got 30 items of X," and I mean, anybody can beat 30 items of X, so they had to set like a minimum threshold. Um, we, my wife actually looked into it first. We considered this back in 2015, and at the time, I was fully employed, and we had a whole bunch of other things going on. So it would have been after they sent us the criteria. I said, I don't think I can do this at this time. That's too much of an undertaking. So we just kind of shelved it for now. And then when the pandemic came along, and I got indirectly retired um, from all of that, I actually had the time. So we after we got through the pandemic and all that nightmare, which I don't want to go into detail on because it was a very bad time for us when during that. Uh, my wife said, "Hey, have you ever thought about looking at that world record again?" So she re-looked into it, and Guinness sent us the criteria. And I said, "You know what? I bet I could do this now. Since I have the time, it looks like it would be within my reach to do it. Beforehand, I don't think I'd want to do it. I Do you want me to go into detail of what I had to do, or did you want that to be the next question? Because I'll tell you, it was not an easy task.
No,
Uh,
I'm kind of interested in what it took is like the whole process.
I mean, with the exact question that's on my notepad was how long was the process applying for the new record and then setting forth to break the record? So that's actually a question here.
All right.
Go ahead.
The application process was 12 to 16 weeks. We filled out the paperwork. It was basically like applying for a job. You had to fill out a resume. Why do you think you deserve the record? Blah 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 blah. So I had to write out basically a 2-page resume telling all about who I am, what do I like, why do you think it's worthy of a Guinness World Record, blah 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 blah. So I submitted it and crossed my fingers. Um, that was in August of 2021. Uh, around around Christmas time, we got the approval. Okay, you are approved. Here's the list of criteria. Everything in this room had to be individually photographed, cataloged, and the stipulations: no duplicate items. I have lots of duplicate items in here because if I like a certain item, I'll buy a whole bunch of it, and that stemmed from back in the early 90s when I started collecting Sonic things. I bought one of this particular item. I said, man, I wish I would have bought more of those. I really love this. So I made sure that if it's a small, unique little item and it's not expensive, I'll buy a handful of them. So no duplicates, no homemade items. Um, they have to be official Sega items. So in other words, like I have a custom made neon sign in here. I have a Sonic made out of stained glass. Those could not be included. Um, there's lots of really amazing things in there that could not be included. So that right, if I was to include all that stuff, my number probably would have been double. So all those had to be taken out. The second thing, you had to have two independent witnesses come in and verify each and every item on nonstop unedited video. Holy cow. So I spent about 3 weeks of 8 to 12 hour days taking this room completely down, photographing each item, labeling the picture. The picture had to be the exact same number of the line item in Excel. So that was, oh my God, it took about 3 weeks of 8 to 12 hour days. My wife says she swears it was more per day, but that was grueling. Basically, to take the entire room down, take it over to my photo area, photograph it, catalog it, and every day I had to every time I did a day's work, I backed it up to another hard drive to make sure there was no disaster and crash. Um, and then once all that was done, the printout was like 2 inches thick, a very fine print. Then I had to find somebody to do it. It took me 4 weeks to find somebody. Nobody wanted to do it. I've asked. They required independent witnesses, like it could be an accountant, which my wife couldn't do because there'd be a conflict of interest, so it had to be outside. I asked police officers, accounting firms. Nobody would do it, and some people said, "Oh, we'll do it, but we want $275 an hour." I said no. So luckily, when I tried one more time, I went to the Liberty County Courthouse, and when I went in, they were about to close, and the guard wouldn't let me in. I said, "Well, I would just want to talk to a few people in here that I could use as a credible witness for this thing I'm doing." He said, "I got an idea for you. Go around the corner here. There's a lawyer in the next building. He would love to do it." So, excuse me, went and talked to him, and he was glad to do it. He had another colleague come in. They came in about 2 days later. We started counting at 5 o'clock. We finished about 3 a.m. the next day.
Wow.
Oh wow, that's
And
wild.
believe me, I
Insane.
asked them, "Did you want to take a break? Any of this, any of that?" They did. They wanted to push through because we started at 5 o'clock and finished. We had to go through this room, and the only way I can make this easy, trust me, I tried to make it as easy as possible. I set up a computer on a table with two big monitors, put the table on sliders where I could just push it around the room. So I could say, I'll kind of give you an example. I had a laser pointer. I would say, okay, there's the item on the computer. There it is in Excel. And I'd point with the laser pointer into the case. There's the item. Number one, number two, number three. That way there'd be no reaching into the cases and picking up stuff unnecessarily and without, take a chance on breaking anything. So that was grueling.
What the thing is, in your specific instance, like you said, it has to be unedited, as comprehensive as possible from those two independent witnesses. Compared to my experience, I'm just thumping a paper football through goalposts, and it might take 0.6 seconds for that football to launch off my fingernail and land on the other side of those goalposts. Whereas in your specific situation, we're talking many, many hours just for just one section of the process. And you're talking about having to back up your pictures and no telling what else, the footage. I mean, however many hours of footage that is, you probably had to have a terabyte or so worth of hard drive storage just to maintain the integrity of the process and whatnot. So I can
Well,
just
it was the
imagine.
wonder. It was, I tell you what, I used my iPhone. What I did was I hooked up to the computer. I dumped all the media out of it. I have the 512 gigabyte storage on this iPhone. So I cleared everything out and left it empty. I reduced the quality to 720p.
Mm,
So I figured, hey, if you're just going to need to review it, it does not need to be full high def.
right.
So I reduced the quality, and it still turned out to be 14 and a half gigabytes of video. It was big.
That's a pretty big
Um,
file. Yeah, absolutely. So the question that I have for you then, since we've kind of discussed the world record a little bit, I want to kind of go into what started your love for video games, not necessarily Sonic, but just for video games in general. Like, where is your origin point? Like, when did you realize that video games was going to be something that you made a lifelong hobby?
Well, I was a kid. The year was 1979, and I was roller skating at our local skating rink. It was called the Skate Machine. It was just like you imagine, the disco ball in the middle and the black lights on the floor, skating around. And when I was skating, I saw a whole bunch of people just kind of gathered over there in the corner. looking at something, and of course, I was curious. What are y'all looking at? They're all gathered around something. When I got up there, I heard boom, boom, doo doo doo, doo doo doo, and when I saw it, it was someone was controlling a spaceship, and I saw the marquee. It said asteroids. I said, "What is this?" They were using their ship to blow up asteroids, and UFOs were chasing them. I was sold on this. I mean, I just couldn't stop watching. I dug in my pocket to see if I had a quarter or two, and I did. Played for like less than 10 seconds, and I was dead. I just kept dying. I was dead, dead, dead. Game over, because that was my first time really playing a game like that. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no dexterity or anything yet. But from that point on, I knew I was a gamer, and I was mad because it was expensive. 25 cents was a lot of money in '79, and it didn't take long for my mom and dad to figure out what I'm doing with the little bit of money they gave me, and I got in trouble a lot for because my dad said he didn't want me spending my money on those damn machines.
That's
That was
funny.
it. I became a gamer in 1979, and it started with asteroids.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and jump into some Sonic stuff then, since Sonic is obviously, I guess, now your favorite, is what I would guess. So when did you first play Sonic, and how did that go about? Like, because for me, Sonic starts in 1993. I was 3 years old, and my dad was 33, and my dad was born in 1960, and he grew up in a dirt floor house, to put it into perspective. So he was like, he's really poor, rural Texan. And at this time, we're in England, and I'm sitting on his knee playing with the square controller, and we're playing Sonic. And that's my first like video game memory for Sonic. So where does Sonic start for you, Barry?
Well, it's crazy. It's funny that y'all bring that up too, is because I'm old. It's hard. It's hard for me to get used to getting older. I still feel like I'm 13, and when y'all just told me your ages, I could definitely be all your dads. I mean, I could all of y'all. I could be your dad. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But the story of that begins is my best friend Manuel Gonzalez. He just got a new apartment, and this was October of 1991, and he said, "Hey man, can you help me move and set up?" And I said, "Of course." So when I went over there, we were hooking up his television set, and he had something sitting on the floor. And I said, "What's this?" He said, "Oh, I bought me a new video game system." I said, "Oh, really?" "Yeah, it's called the Sega Genesis." I said, "Man, that looks pretty cool. I never heard of it." So we hooked. I helped him hook it up, and we got it going and turned it on. And the first thing you heard was Sega, and we thought that's kind of funny. And then there was the da, 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 the theme for the opening of Sonic the Hedgehog. So we turned it on and verified that it worked, and we started unpacking boxes and setting everything up. Well, the whole time we were doing that, we kept hearing the repeating soundtrack, and it was like, man, that music is pretty cool. So we took a break and started playing it. Fell in love with it immediately. The very next day, I went down to the store and bought my own Genesis with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Like, I do want to kind of delve deep into Sonic specifically. I know we all have our preferences within video games and the series itself themselves, but I'm gonna go ahead and just drill you with a few quick questions.
Go for it.
And quick questions, quick responses. I'll believe you the first time you answer it. Favorite Sonic game and why?
Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Uh, I love Sonic so much that I knew that Sonic 2 was going to be awesome. I remember when they announced it, there was it was like, October of 1992. I went down to Toys R Us, saw the huge poster that said pre-purchase today Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and receive a free T-shirt. I said, "Wow, you actually get some free stuff." And then it said, "Just put a little bit of money down on the game, and
Mm.
you'll get some free stuff." I said, "Man, this is amazing." I even picked up a couple of flyers, and they're actually hanging here in this case, um, from Toys R Us. And I thought, man, and I remember taking it home, and it said, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 coming Tuesday, November the 24th, 1992. And I'd go home every day,
Wow.
come home from work, just counting the days down till Sonic the Hedgehog 2 came out.
What
And the
was?
day it came, yes, the
What
day it
was?
came out,
Go ahead.
I went straight. I'm sorry. The day it came out, I went straight from work, straight to Toys R Us in Baytown with my receipt in hand, and picked up that game. And I nearly rear-ended someone reading the back of the box, trying to see what's going to happen in the game.
Oh
Was
my.
I had to set that shit down until I got home.
So, what was the price of a brand new Sega game back in 1992? Was it like 30, $40? What we're talking about?
It was about 40 something and change with tax.
Wow, my earliest memories was like $60 for like Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars for the SNES in the mid '90s, but it probably got to that point some point in the mid '90s. But to continue with the Sonic questions here, so what's your favorite Sonic stage in the whole series?
Oh, that's too hard. I'm just gonna have to say a few because I love them all equally.
Yeah, yeah. Just say a
Aqua-
few then. Just like your top three then.
Starlight Zone, Aquatic
Mm,
Ruin Zone, uh, Hydrosity Zone, um,
mhm,
um, Tidal Tempest Zone from Sonic CD. Uh,
mhm.
I can just say all of them, but I mean those just come right off the top of my head because the soundtrack is just that's what made Sonic so special. Is the soundtrack was Sonic was in stereo first. Mario was still blip blip blip, but Sonic
Right.
was full stereo sound. When I first got my Genesis, if you wanted to hear it in stereo, we actually had to plug in uh, a mini 2.5 millimeter mini jack in the front and run it from there to your stereo speakers on your TV or your stereo
Absolutely.
system.
Yeah, that was thanks to JVC. They had a contract with JVC, and JVC was making premium sound chips for them. That's actually where you get. There's a game system. I don't know if you might be familiar with it. JVC XI. They came out, and it was a Sega and a Sega CD in one, but it
Yes.
belonged to. It was a JVC XI. It was made by them, and that was a part of the contract to make sound chips for the Genesis 2 was that they would get to create their own proprietary hardware for their software. So yeah, that's pretty neat there. So what is your favorite Sonic character other than Sonic, and why?
Tails, because it all
Tails.
goes back to Sonic 2, which is my most favorite game. Um, I mean, he all of a sudden in Sonic 2, Sonic had a new best friend, and he was cool and kept up with him no matter where he went in the game. Uh, he was just, I mean, it was like that's why Sonic 2 was so amazing. The game was made bigger, the zones were bigger, the music was better. Sonic has a new best friend, so Tails is my definitely my best favorite character behind Sonic.
Awesome. Go ahead,
Yeah, you
Cliff.
gotta have multiple characters in there because it's just makes for a party, if you will. You gotta have some friends along the way to support the main protagonist of the story and defeating evil and whatnot. And
Oh yeah,
Hydrosity Zone. Whenever I think of that stage, I think of dun 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 dun. Dun. It just rings in my head and whatnot. So there's definitely back in the original three Sonics that just kind of stick in my head, but it sticks in a lot of people's head as well. So, the video games aside, tell me about your thoughts on the two Sonic the Hedgehog movies that just came out over the past couple of years, just in
they're
general.
top they're top notch. I mean, if y'all been around long enough to know now that most video game movies have always been a dud.
Mm-hmm. Super Mario. Yep.
Uh, They most of them, unfortunately, it's just I think they have little faith. Before Sonic, they had little faith in other words, you know how they making when they make movies is to make money. So if someone pitches a video game movie, they give them a low budget because they don't think it's going to go anywhere. This is my opinion. Because they in history they typically have. So when the Sonic movie came out, I think it was given the same fanfare. There was very little talk about it. There wasn't much advertising. There was no for the first movie. There was no toys in advance of it. There was just nothing. And 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 then of course with Ugly Sonic, you could see that when they were going to make the movie with that and the fan backlash, they
Oh
actually
yeah,
went and
absolutely.
they actually listened to the fans and said, "No, don't do this. You need to make him look like, Sonic that came into the real world, not no skinny legged blue runner guy
Yeah, like a blue
uh,
porcupine on with it was really
with
really
long
odd.
legs." I mean, which if you spray
Yeah.
painted me blue, I got skinny long legs. That's what Sonic. I would have looked like ugly Sonic, but they actually listened and made him look good. And the movie, they paid attention to detail. That's one of my most important things in life is paying attention to detail. if you're a big Sonic fan, you notice details and Easter eggs all over the place. They paid attention to detail. The story was very good. Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik was spot on, accurate, perfect.
And
I
the
mean,
thing is about being a producer of those movies or any kind of replication you want to do from a movie, whether it's whether you're a composer out there that wants to produce like a remix or some arrangement of like an OST of a video game series out there, or if you want to recreate a video game franchise into a movie like Sonic or Power Rangers the movie or whatnot. I feel like you need to be a fan of the franchise, and like you just got through saying, they probably with the low budget and whatnot for the older movies, they I'm gonna go ahead and adhere to. I'm gonna go ahead and um, I'm going to co-sign with your theory in that they probably weren't fans of the franchise anyway. They're just throwing some money at it and whatnot. Whereas the attention to detail, like you said, and the nuance that's taken in consideration when recreating the experience to fit the mind to fit the mind's eye of what viewers are looking for in 2022, it just kind of makes sense, right? So
I think it goes back to our title of our podcast, Video Games Are for Losers, is a lot of video game movies before they were created based on trends at the time. So if a video game was hot enough to make it to the mainstream audience's ear, Mortal Kombat being one, Street Fighter, those two that I could think of that were mediocre movies. They're great movies to me, but in the grand scheme of like criticizing a movie for its like, its integrity as a film, like we all know that as fans we like those movies, but we all know as adults that they're trash movies. But like they were trying to ride off of trends, and I think that's all it was, is some rich fuddy duddy in an office heard the word Mortal Kombat, and he was like, well, here's a few $1,000,000, try to make a movie about it, try to do this. And it was never given like the full attention that Sonic got. I feel like it's a new breadth for video games, like a new breadth for video game movies, that we get something that refreshing. And I hope it continues, honestly. I hope that all the video game movies from here on out are in that same vein of giving them the money to do justice to the franchises.
now see, there's also two things to this too that I want to bring up. You can tell how many times have you went to the store like Target or Walmart and looked at the toy section, and you see toys for a movie that's coming out 4 months down the road.
Absolutely,
Like
yeah.
there's already Jurassic World Dominion. There's toys for it everywhere. So they already said they already think there's going to be a blockbuster smash. So they've already invested in all kinds of toys. But when the first Sonic movie came along, there was no toys. There was no nothing. After the movie became a success in their eyes because they were making money, then toys started to trickle out. When the Sonic 2 movie came out,
They were
there was
everywhere.
already, yeah, Sonic toys were at Target. And I was out there looking for them. So now on the flip side, now that the movie is now they consider it a success, it's made a crap ton of money for them. Now we got to hope they just don't start whipping out movies that are no bad writing, and let's just get another Sonic movie out there so we can make more money.
Yeah, I don't want
You
that
know,
either. I agree. They don't.
yeah,
I don't want it to be saturated. No, for sure. I want it to do justice, and I feel like with technology nowadays that they should be able to achieve much more with much less. Back in the day, if you didn't have a budget for what the special effects or the CGI or whatever it is of the day, you ended up with a scuffed movie. But if you could, nowadays the amount of production that you could do just off of yourself, like you could do there's full feature length movies that people have made millions of dollars off of just off of iPhone, videos. So in today's world, I hope that we're able to create good, do justice to these video game movies, because I love video games and I love sitting in a theater watching a movie based on whether it be a video game, or I just recently watched the Bob Burgers movie. I like seeing movies based upon my favorite TV shows and favorite video games,
yes,
and I like it when
you
they're
have.
good.
Heck, you just had to believe me. As soon as we went into the movie to see Sonic 2, and it opened up with Sega, the whole auditorium just went nuts.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
such
knew
an
that
iconic sound too. That the
it,
Sega, the soundbite is so iconic.
yeah, you were just like in the zone. I mean, I mean, we saw the Sonic movie 3 times. I wanted to go see it a fourth, and now it's already on the streaming and everything. But I'd still
Yeah.
like to see it in the theaters again. It's just I know we have great stuff at home now to watch movies on, but I still prefer to be at the movies.
Yeah, it is an experience that you really can't get at home unless you're a multimillionaire. And we live in Texas, so it's not like we're going to be multimillionaires anytime soon. So we might as well enjoy the movie theaters while we can, right?
Yes.
So moving forward, yeah, I'll let you ask this one, Cliff. This was one of your questions. The next question on
All right, let me go. Let
the
me.
bullet list here.
So the question I've got for you is in regards to your memorabilia. Um, you've had this world record now for a few months now, so I can only imagine just the number of people that have tried reaching out to you through social media or any other means, including us here at Video Games Are for Losers. So, are there any notable people that you're willing to disclose that have reached out to you, whether maybe the CEO of Sega or some other people in the video game industry, or just people just like in the media, like Guinness and podcasters and the
Well,
such?
I don't mean to sound like a downer, but nobody has reached out to me.
Oh, Rusty, look. No one has reached. Did I hear that correctly? No one besides us has reached out to you. N-
Nobody.
That.
Just Guinness World Records. They came out and did their video shoot, but that's it. No,
Well, that's the
nobody.
exclusive interview then. Well, that's good to know
Oh
that
my goodness! I think this
we're
channel's
the
about to.
exclusive.
We're about to get. We're about to get some growth here on the channel. Because that's what I'm curious about. Because it's one thing to to get a Guinness World Record and achieve it and whatnot, but when it is in a specific category that could be the envy of a lot of other people out there, um, adults, kids alike, and whatnot. I think being able to share your experience, not only with the process, but visually with all the memories that every one of us have with Sonic sitting right behind you. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we want to see, or that other people just want to see and just think, oh, I know this character here, I know this character here, and I remember this little uh, toy back in the '90s, back when I played with a lot of toys and whatnot. So um, I I feel like more people need to know who you are, Barry. Rusty,
Well,
do
I
you
mean, I
feel some of that?
appreciate it. Trust me, I've played the social media game, and I don't understand it half the time because no, let me make a correction. A nice, I'm really bad with names, but there's one guy from the UK who reached out to me from a Sega a magazine over there, and I did a little thing for him, uh, some pictures and a short interview, but that's it. Just you and him, and that's it. When I did the
I
initial deal, I tagged everybody on social media. Nothing from Sega, nothing from anybody, and it ain't like I was like in your face, like saying, "Look at me, look at me, look at me." I mean, I've had this, I've been collecting for over 30 years, and I mean, I go relatively unnoticed. I mean, I'm not like out there screaming, "Look at me," but I mean, I just never,
Well, I think
unless
Barry,
someone
that's going to
contacts me.
change. Yeah, I think that's probably going to change eventually. I feel like with a world record like yours being unique and in the video game industry like that, the video game industry itself, it might take a while to come around to things like that. But from what I've seen in the past of people who are collectors and things like that who have unique situations like yourself, eventually somebody's going to reach out. There's no, I mean, you probably have toys in your collection, I would imagine that there's a museum somewhere of Sega stuff and you have something they don't have. There's got to be you like you said you've been collecting heavy for 30 years. So there's got to be a holy grail or something that you have in your collection that Sonic themselves, the Sega themselves probably don't have anymore,
Well,
especially
uh,
since Sega itself has been diminished in such a way that a lot of their buildings and facilities that they've used and warehouses I imagine have shut down and they just things get lost in that mix,
And
especially when
Barry is the Guinness World Record holder after all, so that means
yeah that
no
too.
one else officially, as far as Guinness is concerned, has a bigger collection. Not Sega, not anyone. So
I'll
as
give
far
you
as
an
I'm concerned, he
example.
does.
I'll give you an example. I mean, you've seen the video of the game room, right? And all
Yes,
that stuff.
and we're gonna link
I have
that here on this video as well. We'll add this to the description so everybody on
well,
YouTube could find your video as well.
like I said, this isn't being a whiny crybaby. It's just giving you an example. Like one of my videos, the tour video of the game room, I've had it up for a couple of years, and it's probably just maybe got like a couple of thousand views, if even that, less than that. But then someone who just has a bedroom with a a couple of posters in it and maybe a couple of action figures has like 90,000 views in 4 months. So I don't know if they're creative with the hashtags or it's like a popularity thing, or I don't know how it works, but I've tried putting it out there and it goes relatively unnoticed. So I don't,
It's luck. To be honest with you, I do social media management for a podcast company, and a lot of it is just luck based. And to be honest with you, a lot of it is just annoying the right people. So I've acquired some podcast interviews for other podcasts and stuff like that. And a lot of what I've done is just bug them on social media. Like comment a lot on their specific posts that they're posting, and then whenever I post a post that's relevant to whatever niche they're in, I'll make sure to tag. So I think there's more coming for you, Barry, in your future as far as like you're
well, I mean, I
getting to
appreciate
express
it.
your collection for sure.
I
Uh,
mean,
there's
I
no way
do,
it won't. I don't think.
I do. I'm not going to push it on anybody. If someone's interested, I'd be glad to share it, but I'm not going to be out there in your face pushing it on somebody,
Oh,
so.
absolutely, absolutely.
We'll do that for you. I'm gonna keep going with this, Rusty. So, just kind of segue away from the Sega and the gaming stuff, or actually back to the world record. One last question. I think this is
Sure.
a question that is always in the back of mind of anyone who's a Guinness World Record holder. And be honest, be 100% candid. Do you think anyone else will ever break your record?
If they do, so be it. I mean, this was an accomplishment for me. I'm proud of it. If someone beats it, then fine. I mean, there's not like Guinness is going to come and take my certificate away. That's what means the most to me. I did it. This was a lifetime achievement, and I will always be a Guinness World Record holder. If someone else beats it, then congratulations. I mean, I did it, and I knew how much work it took. So if someone else does, then congratulations to you too.
Hey, that there's definitely nothing wrong with that. That's actually the very good way to look at it, because I kind of share those same sentiments as well. And at the conclusion of this video, if I recall, I'm gonna go and post a link to my world record from back in 2012. But aside from the Guinness stuff, let's talk a little bit about you. Don't have to go into too much detail, but um, who's the man Barry Evans? Just to give people out there who only think Sega and only think Sonic, just give us a little high level overview. Who's Barry Evans? We know you're from Texas. Um,
Oh yeah.
and just a little summary if you want to
Well,
let us know.
I feel like I'm Tom Hanks in Big. I'm I'm still the little kid stuck in this adult body. I want to be back in 1983 playing Dragon Slayer at the mall. When it was all still new. Um, I still that's me on the inside. That's why I'm living this life now. Um, a typical day, where I've always got when my wife, Stacy, she's the best. If it wasn't for my wife and her support of all of this, none of this would have happened. Um, uh, that's me. I'm a free spirit. I'm still a kid on the inside. I'll always be a kid. Um, I don't get along very well with people my own age because everybody that's my own age acts old and are content with being old. So I don't get along with people in my age group. I get along with people that's 20 years younger. Because I'm still a kid at heart and always will be.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm pretty much still a grown child myself. My collection's a
Yes,
little
same.
different than yours. I collect a variety of things. I'm not just stuck in one collection. I collect old electronics and VHS tapes and VCRs and CRT TVs and video game systems. I have every Sega system that's ever been made except for the Master System. I have all of them. I have a boxed Sega Genesis still. Actually, it was the six pack. The one that came with the six pack that had Sonic and five other games on it was the
Yes.
particular one that I have. And so yeah, so what did you do before you retired? What was your career field?
Well, I worked at a museum. You ever heard of the San Jacinto Monument?
Yes,
Yeah, I'm
actually, I have.
familiar.
Yeah.
Well, that was my job since 1989 after I got out of the U.S. Coast Guard. I've worked there, starting off selling elevator tickets, selling items in the gift shop, and working the kiosk front desk, answering questions. And when my boss there actually hired me there because I came out there. A friend said, "Hey, man, you're good with electronics. Can you come out here and do something for our boss?" And he asked, "Can you wire this tape recorder into this 1940s old radio so I can play old timey music on it for this function we're going to have?"
Hmm.
So I went out there and did it. And he was so amazed. He said, "We're going to be opening a theater here in the museum next year. Would you like a job working here?" And the theater isn't open in a year. We'd love to have you to maintain our theater. So that's what I did. And I started working there in the summer of 1989 and worked all the way. I worked there all the way up until 2020 when the pandemic hit. There was a variety of factors that caused me to have to retire. Um, but I'm not going to go into the negative stuff of it. But I didn't want to leave the job, but I had to. I was forced to basically, but otherwise I'd still be working there. I still love the Monument Museum and the park. It's a wonderful place. Um, I spent almost my entire life there. Um, so my job there was maintaining the theater, the projection equipment, and greeting the public and the school kids that visited the museum. It's still a wonderful place to visit.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and lead up into our last question because that last question I know is gonna take a while to answer. It's a good, long, thoughtful question. So, in essence of the podcast, video games are for losers. You being our first guest, the particular question I'm going to ask with every guest is, at what point, and if it's, and I'm looking for like the strongest memory. What strong memory do you have of being called a loser for playing video games? And then to follow up with that, at what point in your life did you come to terms with the fact that this is your hobby and you don't give a good goddamn what anybody thinks about it and they can kiss your ass?
Uh, I can tell you straight up, all the way back then. I mean, I got picked on for liking video games and was called a loser. Because like I said, I was a kid. I was in elementary school when video games came to be. I mean, I'm old enough to know that I can say all the cliches of when I was a kid. We found things to do during the summertime. We didn't have money to spend. My parents wouldn't give us money. We had to go find things to do. We'd play stickball, go play in the field, go build forts. I mean, I got in trouble all the time for playing at construction sites. I would play in the construction site, and that wouldn't be good enough. My friend at the time, he wouldn't just play in the construction site. He would use his buck knife and start the bulldozer and start moving it
Oh
around.
wow, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So so we got into trouble a lot. So I mean, but when video games came along, I mean, all I wanted to do was talk about them. So people would say, "You quit talking about those stupid video games, you loser," and of course, it didn't deter me in the least. I'd keep playing them, keep talking about them. I learned a long time ago that I wasn't going to let anybody dictate what I was going to like or do or enjoy. You know, you remember how high school was? You had the popular people here, the pretty girls there, the football players here. I mean, I always thought this in my head. Screw your categories. I'm going to be me and do what I want. If you like me, you can be with me and we can be cool. If you don't, then go about your merry way. I don't care. Um, I played video games. I spent all my money on them as a kid, all the way through high school. My best friend Manuel Gonzalez, we'd go our senior year out to the mall to our arcade yesterdays. We'd play Rampage when it was new, and we had a blast. I mean, I remember when I was even in the Coast Guard, I would get off the ship with my bicycle and be riding around Seattle and Portland and seeking out arcades to play video games. Um, Video games have always been a part of my life, and they always will be until the day I'm dead.
What okay, so I appreciate that. I appreciate that answer there and the candidness with that. And I agree with you. There's a lot of times in my life where I heard from a lot of people, and Cliff can probably attest to the same thing, where I've been called a loser for, I mean, even as an adult for content creation when I started, doing a little bit of streaming and creating content, from people my own age, like why aren't you why are you pursuing this? And they're outside barbecuing and drinking cheap beer, and I said, well, you like barbecue and cheap beer, I like electronics and video games. That's just your hobbies are different than mine, and they're just as fulfilling to me as they are to you. Kind of feel to it. So my question, I
Well,
guess, now is, go ahead.
here I got to add one more. I got the ultimate hypocrisy. I still hear this one. People telling me that I'm stupid for playing video games and liking Sonic and all that stuff. And this is coming from a person who says you're a loser for playing video games, and then he goes back to playing his fantasy football.
Yeah.
Fantasy
Okay.
football is so boring. Rusty might not agree with me on that, but I actually
Well,
tried it out. I think it's so freaking boring. I don't know what it is. I'm not
well,
into the analytic stuff. But
as
anyway,
somebody who plays fantasy football and likes video games, the only reason that I got into football, Barry, was is to have something to talk about with friends that I had that didn't play video games as much. Now, all of my friends in my friend circle all have video game pasts, but not present. You know what I mean? Like it's in their
They left
past.
him behind.
They left it behind because they got families and lives, and their direction just happened to be something else. Whereas my son and I, we all love video games, so it's like like my whole existence. My brother, my sister, we're all gamers, so it's cool on in that aspect. Because me being the older brother who liked video games, it was the trickle down effect to my younger siblings. So they too are enamored by games. So
Well, that's fine. I mean, in other words, if I had a friend who would love video games and he wasn't into it that much, but we were still good friends, and they wanted to do their other thing, but we're still friends, I would be fine with it. I wouldn't dare like part ways with them because they didn't want to play or talk about games all the time. My wife is always having to like kick me under the table when that's her way of telling me that okay, nobody's interested in this conversation. Go ahead and wrap it up. So I mean, I've had to learn my lesson. I mean, I'll get enthusiastic and start talking about the game room if someone asks, but she has to nudge me and tell me that they just wanted a quick, uh, yeah, the game room is this, and that's all they wanted to hear.
well, I don't. I want to hear it all. Yeah, I love it all. Uh,
and just to kind of the quote that sticks out in my mind when you tell us your little story there, Barry, about other people's disapproval of you liking video games, the quote that comes to my mind from The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith: "Don't ever let somebody tell you can't do something. Not even me. All right." Just kind of hits home in a sense. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, I know it's an old cliche. If you know how much longer you have left in your life or in this world, you do what you enjoy. I mean, this, like I said, I always go back to the old high school cliques and all that stuff. People always trying to tell you that don't listen to that music. It sucks. Listen to our music. Don't do this. Do what I'm going to do what I like. You do what you like. I'll do what I like. I mean,
and those people that lived inside those walls of cliches, I don't think me and Cliff could be considered that way because we hung out with all types of people. And I'm not going to call myself popular by any means because I wasn't, but I flowed through all social classes. I didn't just hang out with one group of people or one. I kind of had friends in each little group. And I guess my next question for you would be. What video games do you still enjoy now? What games are you still playing? What game systems do you like? I'm sure you still like all the new Sonic stuff that comes out, but what
oh
else do you
sure.
play?
Well, I mean, I still as much as it's great playing the high definition modern new games, I still enjoy playing the Super Nintendo games. Like, I mean, during over the last year while I was working on the record, I would take a break and I would start playing Super Ghouls and Ghosts on Super Nintendo. I bought that game when it was brand new back in '91 when the Super Nintendo just came out. That was one of like the very first games that came out. And I've always loved Ghouls and Ghosts and Goblins because it was an arcade game in the '80s first.
Hmm.
That game to this day, I have still not legitimately beat it. It is so difficult. And if you don't believe me, you all know the angry video game nerd, right?
Yes.
You want to
Yes.
laugh your ass off? Watch him and his buddy try and play Super Ghouls and Ghosts for the Super Nintendo on his YouTube channel. Even he couldn't beat. They were like playing it for hours, and I knew that they were getting pissed off because they were getting stuck in the places I was getting stuck. And he finally said, "Screw it!" and he plugged in the Game Genie and used the codes to get to the final boss and beat it because that's the only way they could beat it was and show it on their podcast um, was to cheat to get to the final level. I have tried and tried, and I've gotten all the way to the because if you ever played those games, you have to play through the entire game, and they send
Hmm.
you all the way back to the beginning, and you got to do it all over again before you can get to the final boss. I've gotten to the very end several times, but I've never been able to make it to the final boss. And then that game came out in 1991, so put two and two together about how many years it is. It's been 3 decades, and I have still not legitimately beat that game, and I have been trying hard
It's a
without
tough
cheating.
game. That's a tough
Yes,
game, and that's
but
the thing with a lot of games nowadays compared to the video games that we grew up on is difficulty. Definitely Nintendo hard, as they like to
Preach.
say, Nintendo hard. So
No
but
lies
it's still
detected.
fun. It's
yeah, it
still so
is.
it's still fun.
They
It's a
are.
fun challenge, and I'm gonna legitimately beat it before I die one day.
I uh I personally myself have a pretty large collection of older games, so I kind of feel you on that. I like to play them on CRT TVs as well. Uh, so
Yes,
I actually know where you're coming from on that because, like I said, I prefer to play all the retro games on the hardware that they came on. I do emulation too, but I don't think that emulation matches the same intimacy that you get from holding that same controller. Like I can almost taste the yoo-hoo when I'm holding on the Sega controller. I can almost taste and feel that little paper box in my hand while I'm sitting there
yes.
playing the game, kind of thing. So it just takes you back to sitting on a carpet, and the stank of cigarettes in the air, just like the whole like atmosphere of being at your mom's house as a little kid is
Well,
where
that's what
is
I
where I
say.
get it from it.
When people tell me that they're playing classic games and they're playing them on their big TV or with an emulator or what, I said it's not like buying a Super Nintendo is like looking for the Lost Ark of the Covenant. I mean, you can still find them easily. I've granted the prices have inflated with all the retro gaming craze over the few years, but I would rather play it on the Super Nintendo with a cartridge. You know, I can. This is what I tell everybody: you will not be retro gaming in the future on a PS5 or an Xbox One S. Those things are too tech intensive. They get as hot as an oven when they're running, and all that's going to break down. But long after we're dead, people are going to be playing your Nintendo 64s and Super Nintendos. They're going to last forever. As long as they're taken basic care of and kept in a climate control conditions, they're going to last forever. But all these
They will.
modern systems, they're not going to last.
I still have, actually, Barry. I have a holy grail in my collection of Game Boys. When I was a little kid, I'm originally from England and I grew up in Manchester, and I have, especially in the states, it's a holy grail. But I have a Manchester United Game Boy, uh, the one that I originally played on as a kid. So I still have that in my collection. So it's like a red
That
Game Boy with the Manchester United logo by the start and select button with the little red
that's
devil
awesome.
or
I mean,
whatever on it. So,
I bought my original Game Boy that when right when it came out in like November of 1989, but I couldn't keep my original Game Boy because it kept breaking. I had to keep sending it back to Nintendo for repairs. Full lines of dot matrix would start disappearing from the display. So I actually sent it back for repairs twice, and they just sent me a new. They just replaced it and sent me a new one.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome that they sent you a brand new one like that. So, Barry, we're running short of time here. My last thing for you is just to thank you for your time. We appreciate you. It is a Sunday, guys, so we do appreciate Barry taking time out of a Sunday. Texas
Well,
and
you bet.
Sunday. Texas and Sunday. Sunday's usually a day where you don't get very many people to do very many things. It's usually a lazy day for us Texans, so I do appreciate it. And
Have a
would you like
great
to?
Memorial Day weekend.
Hey,
Yeah,
y'all too.
absolutely. And you can go ahead if you want. Go ahead and shout out your social medias and your YouTube or whatever, where everybody can find you.
Well, thank you very much. If you want to find me on social media, I'm Sonic1992 on Facebook. Also, Barry Evans. I linked to my Sonic1992 page on Facebook, Sonic1992 Instagram, or at Sonic1992. And my YouTube page, it wouldn't let me use Sonic1992, so I had to use yesterday's 92. You can find all my videos there for the game room, going all the way back to 2008 when I was first on G4 TV's X Play.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Well, Barry, we appreciate you again, man. And this has been another episode from Video Games Are for Losers. I'm Rusty.
And this is Cliffgoat.
All right,
And
Barry.
Sonic
Thank you.
1992, you bet. Thank you very much.